This is my thing with the neck. I mean, like, why isn't there even like a soft cartilage bone here? Everything is here. You watched Game of Thrones and everyone's covered head to toe in armor. Nothing here. And how do they die? Head chopped off.
That's right. Hi, I'm Mayim Bialik, and welcome to my breakdown. This is the place where we break things down so you don't have to.
It's Mayim Bialik's breakdown. She's gonna break it down for you, because you know she knows a thing or two. So now she's gonna break down. So break down. She's gonna break it down.
Mayim Bialik's breakdown is supported by Ring. Pretty much everybody knows about the Ring video doorbell, but did you know that they actually make an award-winning alarm? That's right, people. It's a whole alarm. Ring Alarm is powerful. It's affordable. It is a home security system that you can easily install yourself, but I asked Brian, the electrician, to help me. Ring Alarm works on any house or apartment and has sensors for motion, doors, and windows. You're notified right on your phone whenever anything is detected. It's more than just security. It protects your home from flood, from freezing, from fire. With Ring Alarm, you and your loved ones can rest easy knowing your home is protected. I love the Ring Alarm because it's not just knowing that things are secure and taken care of. It's knowing that I don't have to worry about it anymore. And I can check it anytime I want from anywhere that I am. So this holiday season, deck the halls, walls, doors, and windows with the best deals of the year on the award-winning Ring Alarm. Go to ring.com/breakdown to get a great deal on a Ring Alarm security kit today. That's what I've got. That's ring.com/breakdown. We have someone really exciting joining us today. But before I tell you who it is, someone who's always exciting joining us today, Jonathan Cohen.
Hello, Mayim. Hello, everyone. I am excited.
Because of our guest or just to be alive?
Just in general, just to exist.
You've been in a uncharacteristically good mood today.
I mean, I think this is the dichotomy of my existence. Sometimes I come off like I'm not excited, but inside.
I think that's because you're Canadian.
I don't think
There's
it has
always a
anything
politeness.
to
There's
do
always
with it.
just like a generic politeness.
It's a tentativeness to be scolded.
We have someone coming on our podcast who has a podcast that is fantastic. And she is a presence that's really, really fantastic. And as a comedian myself, or a funny person, maybe a person who's paid to say things that some people find funny, she is someone who is very, very funny, and I respect her. I respect her outspokenness. I respect her brashness. She's very, very intelligent, and she's hilarious. We're gonna have Sarah Silverman here with us. I'm very excited.
I'm also extremely excited. It's an extremely interesting episode, different, I think, than some of our others.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how exactly, but it feels different.
She's very wise, you know. She's really wise, and she just has really interesting. Whatever. She just got amazing sound bites. She's terrific. Sarah Silverman actually joined Saturday Night Live as a writer in 1993. That's the year I graduated high school. She's a handful of years older than me. Her podcast is the critically acclaimed The Sarah Silverman Podcast, available on iTunes and wherever podcasts are available. She takes on some really, really tremendous, awesome topics and issues. I didn't get to ask her about Jew face. Oh, well. She previously hosted the Emmy and Writers Guild nominated Hulu series I Love You, America. She has a lot of really cool upcoming projects. There's an HBO Max animated series, Santa Inc., an indie psychological thriller, Viral. She also is in the feature film Marry Me, opposite J-Lo and Owen Wilson. She's one of the most accomplished stand-ups of her generation. She's working on a new special, which will debut on HBO, and a musical adaptation of her 2010 memoir, The Bedwetter, Stories of Courage, Redemption, and Pee, which will premiere April 2022. She's going to talk about that. She's going to talk about, she's in Wreck-It Ralph. She's a voice. She has so many things that people know her from, but she's going to talk about all the things.
What does she start talking about in the interview? It's a very strange start.
Testicles.
That's right. Let's get right into it.
Welcome, Sarah Silverman. Break it down. I think we had the same awkward doctor check our breasts in an inappropriate. We had the same guy. I think I messaged you after it. It was in Beverly Hills. We had the same thing. He likes to talk to me about my children while aggressively touching my breasts. Or he'll be like, so you're a doctor, huh? Like, it's not okay. We had the same guy.
I've never done this in my life. I did an official complaint, and
I had to go back for a checkup, and I was like, I hope it's not him. That's literally what I thought. So I'm related to a famous Israeli a poet. I mean, he was originally from Ukraine, but he was a very famous poet. He started talking to me about my famous great uncle, like with his hands on my breasts.
I don't know how you go back.
I wrote a whole essay because I thought the internet should know about my first mammogram. It is astounding, though, what that woman has to do. My favorite part was when she told me, look away, as if there was shame, right? She says, look away. And
that's not why you have to look away.
That's what I thought. She's like, you shouldn't see what I'm about to do to this breast. Look away.
No, your head's in the way of
exactly.
There is no way this mammogram procedure would be still this barbaric if it was for men.
Correct.
It's so awkward. I actually shot it with my phone while she was doing it, to send to who? I don't know. My sister Shane, but
no, if they had to do to your testicle what they do to our breast, it would be outlawed.
It's insane. I actually asked, and I feel, it's easy to go off on men in general. And I do have great compassion for the plight of men and toxic masculinity they were raised in. But I asked a friend of mine, what is that sensation when you're kicked in the balls? Because that seems to be the greatest pain a man can suffer. And he really explained it to me. He said, and what does this sound like? He goes, it's an intense, dull ache, in your whole bowels. And I was like, oh, that's every month.
Right. I was going to say that's mild menstrual cramps.
Yeah, that's mild menstrual cramps.
No, it is very painful. And the nerves actually route all the way up to your gut, because it is supposed to be the place on your body as a man, evolutionarily, that you protect more than any other place, because it's got the goods to make more humans. That's
right.
Why.
So here's my question. Why isn't there bone around it? I mean, this is my thing with the neck. I mean, why isn't there even a soft cartilage bone here? Everything is here.
Because that's evolution saying, but are you going to survive if? It's
right.
A
You watch
test.
Game of Thrones and everyone's covered head to toe in armor. Nothing here. And how do they die? Head chopped off.
That's right. Maybe if that was reinforced.
But balls are the most fragile things in the world. And I guess they're between their legs to be safe, but I don't understand. Why isn't there? My boyfriend is always lamenting he needs a ball couch. When he sits, he needs something holding them.
I was thinking about this today because I was in an editing bay and I was looking at this movie that I directed, and I won't say which man, but there was a man in the scene, and you'd think there was 100-pound weight in between his legs the way he was sitting. And I was like, why did we even create pants with a middle seam right down the middle if there's two tested, they should just wear something baggy.
Skirts.
Or skirts. Because I don't need to see your crotch, man.
Yeah, men would love skirts. There are every once in a while you see a crew guy with a kilt.
I dig that.
I
dig that.
I love it.
Anyway, it's really a pleasure to have you here.
Are we ready to go off this topic?
No, we'll come back to
exhausted
it. All good things. All good things. We'll circle back.
I just love that testicles have to be the exact right temperature at all times.
For sure.
So they're we use balls to be she's got balls. And it's just meanwhile, actual balls are I'm cold. I need to get close to the body.
That's what I say. I have started using the expression, they've got ovaries. I say it about men or women. Ovaries are super resilient.
It's catching on.
It's catching on. And I explain to my children, who wish that I wasn't their mom at moments like this, that when someone calls someone a pussy, because that is, that was a very common thing that boys would call each other. I said, the vagina is one of the most resilient things that exist on the planet.
That's what I say. If balls are pussies.
That's
Pussies.
right.
I mean, just try this on for size. This is what I've been saying. I like ovaries, but grow a pair of lips. Feels right to me. I think it's an easy, and then for pussy, like just go like, oh, I feel like a left nut not talking to him in person, but.
That really captures the vulnerability, doesn't it?
We'll make sweatshirts.
We do need sweatshirts. Grow a pair of lips.
Grow a pair of lips.
It was funny because my boyfriend really, he likes the big action movies and John Wick and all this stuff. And there's this new Marvel one and and I want to be into it and watch it with him, but it's like the fight scenes are so loud and everything. And I get bored. I go, and I just said like, it's just so many dance scenes. It's boring for me. And the fact that I called the fight scenes dance scenes, which is what they are, it like ruined it for him. And then he had to like examine why that would ruin it for him. Like, it chipped at his masculinity or something, or like why he liked it was cool in some way until then,
It's very aggressive dancing.
I happen to like violent movies with lots of aggressive dancing. This one, not so much.
It gets boring.
Okay, well,
That's how I feel, yeah. And I want to like it. Like everyone's like, John Wick is brilliant. It's so fun. But I just go like,
It's like the same beat over and over
You know
again.
what?
We get it. You're beating each other up. Someone's going to win.
I like a little Jackie Chan because it really is like unbelievable dance. I mean, it's like incredible dancing.
It's the best dancing
It's
ever.
like watching Michael Jordan or something.
Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by BetterHelp Online Therapy. We talk about BetterHelp a lot on this show, and we talk a lot about therapy and what it takes to finally make you ready to take that dive into the pool that is therapy and your mental health. Going to therapy and having that help for your mental health can help you avoid the lows that many of us experience. Also, a lot of people think that mental health isn't part of normal everyday life. It is. Just like you go to the gym or the doctor or take care of your nutrition, you should be taking care of your mental health. BetterHelp is online therapy customized just for you. They have video, phone, and live chat sessions. It's more affordable than in-person therapy. You can be matched with someone in less than 48 hours. Give it a try. See why over 2 million people have used BetterHelp Online Therapy. And Mayim Bialik's Breakdown listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/break. That's betterhelp.com/break. Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Helix. My kids were the first to try a Helix, and I was thinking, it's really not going to make that much of a difference, but if they're happy, great. Then I sat on their bed, and I didn't want to get off the bed. This became a problem, so I got my own Helix. I took a quiz. It took 2 minutes to complete, and it matched my body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for me. Mine is the Midnight. I sleep on my side, usually, sometimes my stomach. I'm a mess, but this mattress is fantastic. I get terrific sleep. True story. I've even bought Helix mattresses for friends because it is such a blessing. Go to helixsleep.com/breakdown. Take the 2-minute sleep quiz, and they'll match you to a customized mattress that will give you the best sleep of your life. Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners at helixsleep.com/breakdown. That's helixsleep.com/breakdown for up to $200 off and 2 free pillows. Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. The holidays can be so hectic, but HelloFresh keeps things simple with recipes that cut back on meal prep and cleanup so you spend less time in the kitchen and more quality time with friends and family. Ingredients travel from the farm to your door within a week. You get the convenience without skimping on the quality. Plus, skip trips to the grocery store and avoid the long holiday lines. I love HelloFresh because it's helped me get back to cooking in a way that's manageable with my hectic schedule and with my kids. Go to to HelloFresh.com/break14 and use code BREAK14 for up to 14 free meals and 3 free gifts. That's HelloFresh.com/break14 and use code BREAK14 for up to 14 free meals and 3 free gifts. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Our podcast focuses on mental health, obviously, and mental wellness. We're really grateful to talk to you because you're a person who has spoken, a bit about some of your journeys. And I guess we'd like to know a little bit about how you grew up, what your family was like, what your parents do. Like, did you grow up in a super dynamic, funny house? Did you grow up in a neurotic house, somewhere in between? Like, what was it like in your house?
Yes.
Okay.
I grew up in New Hampshire.
I don't know anyone who grows up in New Hampshire, by the way.
Because they don't leave.
Right.
They usually stay, and so it's like, if I see a New Hampshire license plate, I will follow that person until I can just talk to them and be like, what are you doing here? And my dad's from Boston. My mom's from Connecticut. So they're both New Englanders. It's a totally different kind of Jew, It's definitely not represented in art. But they're both obnoxious and agnostic, which is what I meant. And, which is, I think, a little more a God-fearing way of saying atheist, like a just in case. Grew up in New Hampshire where we didn't know other Jews. None of us were bat mitzvahed or anything. And Susie, my oldest sister, who became a rabbi ultimately, she says it best is like, we just thought being Jewish meant being Democrat because that's just how we were different in our town, But we were culturally Jewish. I mean, it's pretty sad. Like, I grew up with frozen Lender's bagels and still love them, but I'm not it's also like being a kid with all these, my friends, going over my friends' houses, their parents would always be like, are you from New York? And I'd be like, what's New York? I'm from here. It's funny, when I was 18, I moved to New York and I was like, oh my God,
Those
am
are your
from
people.
New York.
Yeah.
And then looking back as an adult, you go, oh, right. Because these young parents just thought Jews are from New York, and they are. I mean, probably 90% of Jews globally are in New York. My parents got divorced when I was like 6.5. They stayed close to each other, nearby. I don't know. What else?
There's others. You have other siblings, correct?
I have 3 sisters.
Right. You're the baby?
Mm-hmm.
Got it. And were you the funny one? Is that how this works?
Yeah, I was definitely the funny one. And I think I had one of those dads that taught his toddler a bunch of swears because he thought that was hilarious. And then he'd take me to the store and I'd yell them out. And I do remember that feeling of intense approval by adults despite themselves. And it felt like drugs, I remember it made my arms itch. And of course, that made me into like a shock value comic in a lot of ways, because that's what I sought out. That was the drug, I think. And also, I think I was the funny one. Everyone in my family is funny, but I think I was the baby and the funny one that kind of kept everyone's spirits up a bit, until I started having my own depression.
Right. Well, so before we get to that good time, which I do plan to, your family had a loss, and we don't have to talk about it specifically, but was it that loss that led to your parents? I mean, that led to the unfolding that eventually led to divorce, or did they? I'm not sure the timing of that.
It's interesting. It's a fascinating story, but it's long and everything. But they had a son that died in a terrible accident while they were in my grandparents' care. And it was one of those things. My mom was on a game show because my dad would go to New York to do buying for the store. He had a discount women's clothing store. And so she did like a game show while they were in New York, sitting around, and she like won. She was like the week-long winner, and then she came back again, and it was concentration. She won. We still have furniture in the family from that game show, like this big green velvet couch that like goes from family to family within our family, and all this stuff. But they sold all the glitzy stuff, like she got a sports car and but they went on a cruise. And it was when Jeffrey, their son, was 3 months old, and anyway, they called to see, how they get back to the mainland, and they're in New York, and they call, and I got both. When I wrote my book, I got both of my parents to tell me the whole story. And it was like the most consistently same story either of them have ever told the same story of. And also they both said it was the closest they ever felt, because they find out on the phone. Like my dad's like, what do you mean he's gone? And his father, who was incredibly abusive to him as growing up, was sobbing, and they had to go home and take care of his parents' feelings. And then they went home to their house, and it was the late 60s, I guess. And their friends, thinking they were doing the right thing, cleaned up any sign of him. Just like there was no sign that Jeffrey ever existed. But they both said it was the closest they ever felt to each other, because they had this experience that only each other really could share. But they both said it was the closest they ever were, but they were not. It's crazy they got married. Yeah. They're so different.
This is before you were all born.
Susie was born.
Wow. Okay.
It was between Susie and Laura.
I see. Wow. So did that hang in the air in your home? I mean, that's the kind of loss that sometimes will just hang there. Were you aware of it? Is this something you learned as you got older?
For me, I learned it from my older sisters, almost like a ghost story.
Right.
And then that was, the first time I bombed in my family was my Nana picked us up to go to Week's Diner on Sunday, which is what we did. And she goes, put on your seatbelt. And I go, yeah, we don't want to wind up like Jeffrey. And I honestly, I was 5, and I thought everyone was going to just explode laughing. And I just remember my sisters turning around and looking at me, and then my grandmother just sobbing. And it was like, ugh.
That's a rough night on stage.
Ooh, yeah. Loosened my tie. I didn't know. Up till then, the most shocking thing I could say was always gold. Right.
That comedic instinct to push towards the worst possible thing.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of Sarah Silverman as a comedian, that's the perfect story. Meaning, yes, that's what I want to picture. Meaning, not what but that's where I feel like you were. That at 5, you were like, this is gonna be fucking amazing, and it's not making people laugh.
Yeah, my origin story makes all the sense in the world.
Right, you're really on brand here.
But you're right. I think that just like the Holocaust or slavery is passed down trauma, I think in a micro way, that was also passed down trauma. And, my mom was suffered from depression, but of course it wasn't called depression. And because you couldn't touch it or point to it, she was surrounded by people who thought she was lazy. In her family. My
grandmother lost a child, so it was after my mother. My mother was the second of 3 girls. But what my mother remembers is that my grandmother did not want to have more children. And so between my mother and her older sister, there's, the post-Holocaust spacing of 2 years, and then there's 2 years, and then there was another 2 years, and my Aunt Linda was born. What my mother remembers, was that my grandmother, who, basically lived to serve my grandfather, tried to put her foot down and say no, this is it. And, I'm not saying he forced her, but there definitely was some sort of negotiation. And, and 4 years later, literally she had 2 years and then, grief. And anyway, but yeah, it does. It really, it hangs in the family. And my family's religious also. So there's a huge, mystical thing about that. Anyway, tell us when you first, like when I look back, whatever I experienced, I just thought it was what it was like to be alive. Like, I thought that like stomach aches and like terror of like not wanting to fall asleep and like crying all the time and like, oh, counting your breath and your steps and having a weird number that you have to touch things. What? That's not just normal. So, it wasn't until much later, I actually, I was sent to a psychiatrist by the first OB I ever had. I was a very late bloomer, so I never had gone to a gynecologist or anything. But
when did you get your period?
Almost 18.
Me too.
Wow, that's great.
That's crazy. Yeah, didn't your parents send you to the doctor all the time? Why isn't she getting her period?
I thought maybe I'm a boy. I just didn't know. It's like tucked in there. Do I have ovaries? These were conversations that we had to have. Anyway, when I did finally go to, my first OB, one of the things that they like to do, and I believe she was doing the best that with her training, was she put me on the pill. Because that's what you do to teenage girls, especially if they're having mood swings or emotions.
Oh, right.
So that ended up sending me to a psychiatrist who, her solution was Xanax. And at that time, what? Are we having... Well, I know she has a Xanax story, but I'm just sharing mine, and then you could share yours. And
no, I know.
Okay.
I'm like, this is haunting.
Well,
for people who are only listening, the facial reaction we got from Sarah there is
Sarah,
shock.
Sarah, like me, has very little poker face. You can see all the things she's thinking and feeling. It's a blessing and a curse. Anyway, so like that was her solution, and I would tell her things that I felt merited. Like, well, don't you think we should be worried? And she'd be like, no, you're fine. Just take this. Stand up straight. You'll be okay. And it kind of went on like that until I spoke to a friend of mine who was actually studying to become a therapist, who ended up helping me have the courage to find a different person. So looking back, I see that there were much more. There were many more patterns. There were, indicators. And like, I don't fault my parents. They did the best they could. But my journey, was very, very strange and rocky. And I know that you have, I don't know when you started noticing your stuff or when someone noticed it. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
I had anxiety and all this stuff, but I just thought that was life. And when I was 13, I had like a single moment that's put me into depression for the next 3 years. And it just happened like, how as fast as like you're like fine 1 second and then you go, oh my God, I have the flu. Like that quick. It was like that, but it lasted 3 years. But I was put on, cutting to the chase at 13. I was put on Xanax and upped and upped and upped until I was taking 4 Xanax 4 times a day.
That's
16
lot.
Xanax
That's
a day.
Lot, especially
13.
That's a lot for an adult.
I can't even. This person should be in jail.
Yeah.
And my parents.
You and I have a list of doctors we need to put in jail. I think this is our new project.
Yeah, and I just felt nothing, but I remember I kept all the empty bottles in a shoebox because I just thought, like, if something happens to me, I hope they find this. It's insane. And another doctor a couple years later was horrified to find out and then got me off like a half a pill a week. I just told the story. This is also in my book that's going to be in this musical that comes out in April, but it's that my psychiatrist I went to the first session and he said, whenever you feel bad, just take a Xanax. I'm going to prescribe you Xanax and you just take it. And then I went to my next appointment. And I remember I was in the waiting room for so long. I read a whole People magazine. And I remember thinking like, whoa, I couldn't believe I read a whole People magazine. And then he shared this Victorian house with another therapist, a hypnotist that I actually also went to for bedwetting. And he came downstairs with no bedside manner, sobbing. And he told me, I changed the name, but he goes, Dr. Riley hung himself.
Oh my God.
I was 13 and I just had to wait the rest of the hour for my mom to pick me up. And I remember it was the winter in New Hampshire. It was like pitch black at like 4 p.m., and I just thought like, I didn't know what to do with it. I don't like feel scarred from it, but it's just like, it doesn't even feel believable.
Did your sisters have features of anxiety, or were those all saved for you genetically?
Yeah, they did. I mean, they didn't have we had, like so many families, I think we had extremely different childhood experiences under oftentimes the same roof, but my parents were divorced and my sisters moved in with my dad. But, I mean, it's like, I have this musical that's coming out called The Bedwetter about like the year I was 10, but like, any one of my sisters could have like, a whole thing about the year they were 10, like, or their childhood is, they each individually struggled in very different ways. Susie.
Well, she became a rabbi. We know what she struggled with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like she was abandonment. Like my parents had, before I was around, they had like foster kids that my sister remembers and then like remembers them like leaving, like, bye, like just, so she was very, she would have she would open her drawers at night because she would get in her head that like her clothes couldn't breathe, like very like empathy for
inanimate objects. Yeah.
Like, and and Laura really struggled, with a lot of different things. And we all had shit, I mean, I feel like any of us could paint like picturesque childhoods and horrifying, like nightmare horror movie childhoods. They're both right.
The way that I sort of see it is, and I do tend to see this more, just completely anecdotal in like the Jewish families I know. It's almost like the crazy gets distributed, and like they don't all come out the same, the kids, but each of them get like a different part. Just like you get all different parts of your parents, but especially in families, I've noticed where there's a lot of neuroses and there's a lot of, either trauma or like generational trauma. It's like it gets distributed and each one gets to say about the other one, like, well, he's so this and he does all, but then that other sibling also gets to say, well, she's got all the like, I'm a chronic, horrible nail biter. And like, my brother's not. Why did I get that one? And for me, it's an expression of anxiety. Like that's where it goes. But it's like everybody gets something when you're growing up, in a house like that. It just gets like distributed differently. You're one of 3, so you have it 3 different ways.
Well, also just the placement, like being the youngest, being the oldest, being the middle. I feel like youngest is a sweet spot.
I don't know. I mean, I'm the younger of 2. It didn't feel that sweet.
No, but once you're the youngest of 3, well, I'm the youngest of 3 or 4, you're like a little bit separated from the intensity of the crazy. Because the parents have like, when you have your first kid, you're like really, really on edge. And then the second one, most people are a little bit more relaxed. And by the third or fourth,
look, he's our little prince.
Yeah, and also, but they're not watching you.
That's right.
Like my sisters have baby books, and I have a baby book with just 1 page filled out.
Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Third Love. Talk about the funny and uncomfortable moments of the holiday. Too much champagne at the holiday work party? Jeans too tight after too many cookies? Grandma asking about your love life again? Well, with Third Love, comfort is always a given. The holidays can be hectic, stressful, or downright uncomfortable. Your bra shouldn't be. This holiday season, give the gift of comfort with Third Love, your one-stop shop for all the women in your life. Gifting Third Love means giving joy and feeling good in all-day wear that hug better, hold stronger, and support longer. I love Third Love because of my bra. I've talked about this and I will continue talking about it. I'm a half cup size. I never knew that till Third Love. Take the fitting room quiz. It's like a personal shopper, but better. It focuses on size, breast shape, current fit issues, and your personal style to find bras and undies that are perfect for you. The fitting room has helped 18 million women find their true bra size. I'm one of them. Feeling is believing. Upgrade to everyday pieces that love your body as much as you do. Right now, you can get 20% off your first order at thirdlove.com/breakdown. That's 20% off at thirdlove.com/breakdown. Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Rothy's. Looking good and feeling great just got easier thanks to Rothy's. From the unbeatable comfort to the fact that you can wash them, these shoes check every box. You may have heard about their best-selling Point and Flat. People magazine named the Point the best flat for their first ever Style Awards, 2021. But did you know they also make insanely comfortable sneakers, loafers, ankle boots, I like those, Mary Janes, and more? The best part, everything they make is better for the planet. They repurpose millions of water bottles into their signature thread that goes into every single one of their products. I love Rothy's. I have them in so many colors, and I literally put them in the wash and they are good as new. This holiday season, take the guesswork out of gifting. Rothy's has something for everyone. Treat yourself or find the perfect gift for a loved one. Win the gift game this season with Rothy's shoes and accessories. Get $20 off your first purchase at rothys.com/breakdown with extended returns and exchanges through the holidays. That's rothys.com/breakdown. What were you like in high school? Like, I'm curious what your kind of humor and your intelligence looked like, kind of in the typical competitive world, especially of teenage girls. Like, were you already like a standout girl? I mean, you're pretty, you have a nice body. It's like a thing. Your hair is beautiful. Like, were you popular? Did boys like you? Did boys hate you? Did girls hate you, but boys liked you?
I was pretty well liked, and I feel like I do this in my life now too. I stayed peripheral. And so I didn't want any trouble, like popular kids liked me fine. The nerds, I was like, were my friends, like the theater. And I did sports too. But I just kind of stayed. I had my best friend, a couple best friends growing up. But I definitely stayed peripheral. I was, like I said, like you, I didn't develop until I was way in my upper teens. Right. So I was a comedian when I lost my virginity, in New York. So I had boyfriends, but I didn't. Right. I'd kissed, It's funny because I wasn't innocent. I was the one that my friends would come to get information about sexuality in the human body, just because my family was so open and nothing was taboo, and I was exposed to things, but I wasn't myself experienced in it at all.
We have very similar. It's it makes me feel good.
Yeah, I think that is a Jewish thing too. It's people go, when I was doing comedy, it's well, you're really, breaking taboos or whatever, but it really was kind of innocent in that in my household, there wasn't language. There was no language we couldn't use as long as the grammar was correct, for my mother. Diction and grammar, if you say fuck, say it clearly, was more important.
And I think that's sort of one of the things that, that I find particularly captivating about you as a comedian. The female comedians are different than male comedians. They're treated differently. They're judged differently. It's often a very different style of comedy. I'm friendly with Eliza Schlesinger, and I remember when I found her comedy, I was like, oh, it doesn't seem like she's reading. That's great. She's talking and telling stories, and
she's so prolific.
She's
she
is very prolific.
I'm such a slow honer, needle pointing and act together. And then every time I see her, I'm hadn't heard that, haven't heard that.
Yeah.
Wow.
But one of the things that really kind of appeals to me about her comedy, about your comedy, I hope that's okay to, kind of think of the two of you like that, is there's a lack of self-consciousness about being female, while also getting to maintain the fact that you are a female comedian. And I wonder if that was something sort of conscious, or if it was just sort of this is who I am and this is the act I'm going to put together, or if you felt, pressure around that. I mean, Eliza used to say she wasn't, she said she wasn't the prettiest person until she became a stand-up comedian. And then everybody was like, oh my God, wow, she's wearing tight jeans.
Hot in Cleveland.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
What's the question? Oh, well, when I started, it was very male dominated, and even when I started becoming of notice to, whatever, little articles or this, what I was rewarded for and praised for was, she's one of the guys. she's good because she's like guys. And they couldn't just understand that I'm just fun. I was funny. They had to equate it with being male, or like that I play basketball or that I play poker. These are things that I just grew up doing. Like in New Hampshire, women play sports. I remember playing softball on like the improv softball team, and people would go like, "Did you have brothers?" And I'm like, "It's softball. I played for the state of New Hampshire. It's a women's sport. Like, no, I had sisters." I mean, it's so odd that the things that are associated by gender that we can't even our brains can't even take them in unless we put them in a category of some kind,
I resonate with that. I've been told my whole life I throw like a boy. And it's like, no, I just throw like myself. And yeah, my dad taught me to like suck it up, have a good arm, like, shake it off. Take it like a man is what he used to say when I got injured. But,
Grow lips.
He did not
grow a fucking pair of lips and get back out there.
But I guess that relates to another question I had. There's a specific way that you typically dress. And like I remember when I would watch your show, it was something I really loved because there's a real like lack of self-consciousness about you, meaning you often would wear like t-shirts and jeans and sneakers and hoodies, and you just dressed like a person. I actually was curious, is that something that you were conscious about? Like, this is the way I want to dress to, present myself in a male-dominated arena? Or was it just that like that's how you like to dress? I've noticed in some more recent years you've worn some different things. It's like a little more glam sometimes when I see you. So I'm curious if there's been, some sort of, I think we all have an evolution as we get past 25 and then as we get past 30 and 35. But I guess I was just curious because it's something that I've always really loved about you that I always felt was really significant.
Nothing, my stand-up, my dress is like, there's really not preconceived, like it's just what when I first started doing stand-up, I had like a real look because I was 17, 18, 19, and I had like the 60s, like I had that girl hair that I knew how to do. And I'd wear like, I like that like 60s vibe. I had like a look, and then I just grew out of it. I moved to, LA, and I just started wearing comfortable clothes all the time. And then when I started wearing like shorts with tights, I think that was like very influenced by like Janine Garofalo.
Yeah.
And I just felt power. I like when my thighs are out, but like, I don't like them bare, and I just feel like they almost felt like superhero, get up. And then when I would start like promoting things and they would get a stylist for me, I hated it at first. And then I embraced it. Like, I remember thinking, well, that's not me. And then I go, well, like, what is me? If me is defined by the clothes I'm wearing, then there's not a me. Like, you know what I mean? So I go, I can wear anything and still be me. But then I just got real, I like to dress up, if you're going to the Emmys or something schmancy but I really love dressing down. And I the past few years just decided to not take the stylist when I am offered, whatever, and just wear clothes from my closet. And, I got like a dress online and I wore it a million times. It was just like a cotton dress with flowers on it that I got like on Amazon. And I remember like some place was like, she's worn this over and over again. And I'm like, yeah, good story. But I like just dressing myself but I don't want to be beholden. Listen, I'm still, oh my God, I'm 50. I'm still wearing this. It's like, yeah, it's because it's comfortable, but I don't want to be beholden to some kind of look because that's me. I think that's when like comedians become caricatures of themselves. Like, people are expecting me to look like this or to have jokes that are like this. It's just, if you can't grow and change with the times, you're just like this relic from another time. And I know a lot of comedians and I love them that stick to like what made them famous because they're afraid to change or, you're going to lose people. You might gain people, but it's the unknown is scary. And so they stick with their the thing they do that got them famous in, 1985 or whatever, or like, and it works because they book the road and people go, I remember that. I like that guy. That's the guy that does this and has this voice or whatever.
So when you said you're 50, I hardly believe it. And I don't mean like, yeah, you do. You look amazing. You have a wit that is very spontaneous. And so there's just something, but is that, do you identify as that kind of, there's something very youthful about you. And I don't just mean your attractive skin.
I am very 50 in many ways, but I do feel youthful. Like I just, I don't know. I don't feel, it's like, when I remember my mom, who is also very like always in overalls. Like I have her overalls. I wear them a lot. Like always in overalls and like mismatched socks and never a bra, she just wore like a tank top under her shirt. And she was like that too. But then I remember in her like 40s, she'd look in the mirror and, she'd like catch herself in the mirror and she'd go, that's not me. Mm. And it was like terrifying to see, because she looked like her to me, because it's gradual. But like, it is funny how like sometimes I just feel beautiful and young and I don't know, I just feel good. And then I look in the mirror and it makes me laugh. I don't do the horror movie version, but I'm just like, oh yeah. But I do think like, it's silly, but like smiling and laughing and stuff we think of as youthful. So people go like, oh, you look good, but I think I just look normal. I definitely noticed my face changing, like in ways I didn't know. Like it's become like, this isn't me putting myself down. I'm just like, I was always very horse facey. And now I feel like I've gone into a more of a chipmunky kind of face. But that's why, like the internet was first a thing and you could like search your name. And I remember searching my name and then you just see the first few words. Yep. And it was like, number 2 celebrity list, Sarah Silverman. And I was like, oh, and I clicked on it and it was a list of horse-faced celebrities.
No. That's so weird.
But I beat Abraham Lincoln.
Do your feelings get hurt? Like if people say mean things about you, if people are mean to you, if people, I don't know, do things that make you angry?
Yeah, my feelings get hurt, but much less. I have a lot of tricks to protect myself. Mm-hmm. Like for the most part, don't look at comments. Mm-hmm. But I will look at some comments or I'll scroll for, this sounds very elitist, that I'll scroll just like to look at only like blue check comments. And it's not because I only want to see famous people comments, but they tend to not be the insane, misogynistic, anti-Semitic, and by the way, those don't actually bother me. What really hurts is probably if there's a part of me that senses truth to it. Mm. You know what I mean? That's when I go, mm. But I have also been changed by comments or learned things. Sometimes they get hurt, but it's not like I'm made of stone. I think I have, with each growing year, I have a more and more of a perspective. Like when your perspective changes just a little bit and like the whole world looks different, it's, I am less touched by things that I genuinely can be heartbroken for someone that I can tell is trying to hurt my feelings. It's like being a comedian, especially before I had an audience, when like the audience didn't know who was coming on. And then I came on, I bombed all the time, and had, 2 a.m. spots and got heckled and still I can get heckled. And even if it's a positive heckle, to me, all heckles, and this is before there was the internet and trolls, but like, it's so, they're so the same in that to me, the subtext of any heckle is I exist, right? So there's like, not in a condescending way, but in a way that I, as a human, that I can understand it. It's I found that I feel bad or have a little more compassion instead of being stung myself, you know?
What's your kind of mental health regimen, or like what is it like as an adult? I mean, you eventually got off your Xanax. Do you go to therapy? Are you a person who believes in medication, likes to talk about it?
Yes, and yes. Medication is offered willy-nilly, and like you could probably get your internist to give you something even and not, and never go to therapy, and all that's bad. But, in 94, I was having a lot of, in 93, it came back again, like as the depression. And I recognized it right away, and I couldn't believe it came back. I thought it was gone forever. And, it was that panic attack, kind of like, I had just gotten hired at Saturday Night Live as a writer, and all of a sudden, my biggest dream. And I was just like, I'm going to quit and move home to New Hampshire. Like, just full on panic. Like the idea of brushing my teeth, of doing laundry, of doing anything that I'd only just have to do again, just like, for some reason, really fed into the depression and anxiety. And I learned a lot about it. Just even the things, like I had terrible panic attacks. So I was getting crippling panic attacks, and I got put on Klonopin, which really has to be a just for the moment thing.
That's a strong medication. Yeah.
And to this day, I have it in my backpack all the time. And just knowing that I have it prevents panic attacks, most of the time. Like what usually brings on most panic attacks after the first one is the fear of another one.
Correct. And this is one of the main distinctions between anxiety attacks and panic attacks that a lot of people don't understand. And people are like, oh, I had a panic attack. And I'll ask really annoying questions. I'm that person. But that's a really, really important point.
Well, panic attack has been a kind of catch-all now for people.
Sure.
Like,
yes.
Oh, I had a total panic attack.
Yep. Did you?
But I, and then in 94, my auntie Martha, in New England, we say aunt, I don't know. And, she's in, it doesn't matter, is a therapist. And she, said, you should see a psychiatrist. And I got put on, and I was having problems with also rage.
Yep.
Just not knowing what to do with rage and misplaced rage.
I'm a rager. I break
and
things.
So, but I went on Zoloft in 94, and I'm just very lucky. That was the ticket for me, and I'm still on it. I recently doubled it. I was always on 50 milligrams or whatever, and now I take the whole 100, and that's after 22 years or something, and that's been good for me. And it coincided with menopause and going off of birth control. So I think it's been helpful. But I think that stuff you've got to couple it with talk therapy, because what you understand intellectually really affects the chemical stuff in many ways, not completely, but you know what I mean? Like it's like, when you're in, I remember being in total despair and the world was falling, and then looking at the calendar and realizing I was in my PMS week, and then being able to totally relax and understand it, and take care of it. But I talk on my podcast all the time, like people call in, and I am so good at intellectualizing all this stuff. But in practice, I'm still a mess, like I get anxiety, and I try the things I suggest to others, and you know what I mean? And I just go, I'm a hypocrite, because I just feel like the sky is falling, but I do know it will pass,
Can we do a rapid fire real quick before we let you go?
Okay.
Rapid fire with Sarah Silverman. What was your mother right about?
Oh my God, so many things. I'm gonna completely ruin this rapid fire now, because it's just like that just like opened up so many things. I'm working on this musical that's coming out in April, and it's not promoting it, but I guess I am.
Please plug.
And the woman who was playing my mother in this last workshop we just did said, I looked up your mother, and I found this Lifetime Achievement Award speech she gave. And I was like, that's online? And I went, oh God, because she became a director of local theater in New Hampshire, and she was really great, and all the kids called her mom. And like, even at her funeral, a guy came up at her funeral who none of us knew. And he goes, I was Beth Ann's waiter at Applebee's. And she asked me if I sang and danced. And I said, I don't know. And she said, well, come on down and audition and find out. And that year I was Curly in Oklahoma. But she saw like a star in everyone, And so when this woman said, I watched her, all the sisters, we all flew home to surprise her, to present her at the New Hampshire, like Palace Theater in Manchester, New Hampshire, the Lifetime Achievement Award for directing theater in New Hampshire. And she went up. And so when this woman said, I watched it, I remembered it. And the way I remembered it, I was like, oh God, she went up and she wasn't, she was gracious for maybe a second. And then she was just saying, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're 15 minutes late. And when you're late for rehearsal, you're telling your other castmates that your time is more important than them. And like, because she was like in the middle of a play or something. And like that had just happened. And then and we were just like, Mom, get off, say thank you. And, and I just remember being horrified. And then a few weeks later, like a couple of weeks ago, I looked it up and I watched it. My boyfriend like put it on the TV screen, and he had never met her. And she was amazing. She was funny and loose and quick, and like did like a bit, like trying to see herself on the big screen. And like, she was loose and messy and she was incredible, and I just thought, what an incredible opportunity to see what really happened, but how horrifying at the cognitive distortion of my memory coming from my own perspective and my own frustrations and dynamic with my mom. And what else have I totally distorted that can't be checked, But anyway, what was my mom right about? Oh,
don't be late.
She would always give everyone notes. There are never enough comment cards for my mother. And now I've become that. Like, I was in line at 7-Eleven and this like kid, 20-year-old was buying like Doritos and orange soda. And I was like, really? Almonds are the same price. This is what you're going to put in your body. And I just thought, oh my God, I have become her, because in her mind, she's like, I'm helping. And that's how I felt. Right. That's how I feel too. But
maybe she's holding back notes for us.
She has notes for us.
I think
she'll
so.
DM me later.
I know I have no notes for you.
What was your father right about?
I'm sorry. I'm sure he's right about. Of course, he's going to watch this. He has a Google alert on everything I do. I watched him change completely from a rage-filled time bomb to I'm so fucking lucky. I got to hang out with my kids. I get to everything is, no matter what health things he's going through, no matter what shit's going on, he's so grateful and thrilled about every waking moment. And it's to see that kind of change in a person, is like,
that's
very inspiring.
Very similar to actually my mom. Once my dad died like 6 years ago, and she got into therapy and gratefulness, meditation and yoga and Pilates.
She's spiritual and insightful.
She doesn't ask me 62 times a week when we're seeing each other. Now we just see each other on Sundays. But like the self-control that she has now, it's unbelievable. It's very remarkable.
We see each other on Sundays too.
You and my mom?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay.
After your brunch.
That's right. Location for you that promotes your best mental health.
Ooh, my bedroom.
Okay.
Or New York City, empty streets, music in my ears, maybe a puff, cloudy, but not too cold. and just walking forever.
Mm. Do you have a mantra? If you do, or if you don't, what would it be?
You know, I think the first thing that popped up when the world shut down and it felt a little horror movie-ish was, this is what is, you know, this is what is, you know, and I definitely got in a good headspace fast. Like, I was immediately so grateful for FaceTime and all the technology we have to stay connected to family. I was, you know, I wasn't near them. And
Who's been your best spiritual teacher?
so many people, but actually this therapist that I just stopped seeing for other reasons really opened up my world the past several years. And, I am so grateful to him. He gave me so many tools.
What's been your moment of best intuition?
I have a pretty good gut for dangerous people. And, you know, I'm being a comic, you know, I have a what I call a rational fear of drunk people because I've been grabbed and and also just my biggest fear is like that if you look at them the wrong way, everything they fear is projected onto your face. Like, what? You know, it's just, I find it terrifying.
And who are you most competitive with?
I'm sure I am competitive, but I can't.
Okay, that's fine.
No one, I don't know.
Okay.
I know that sounds like that can't be true, but.
No, most people say themselves, and I think that can't be true.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say, and I go, that's a cop-out. It's bullshit.
Everyone. We don't get any answers to that question.
Sarah, we heard you have a musical coming out. Tell us about that and anything else you'd like us to give love for.
Well, my podcast, as you know,
Yes.
not as you know my podcast, but the Sarah Silverman Podcast is what it's called. But as you know, subscribers you need people to like click that button or the thumbs up or the subscribe button or whatever the fuck it is, means something to someone that keeps it on the air. So yeah, I'd say check out my podcast. And if you like it, press the subscribe button. That means something.
I like to say, even if you don't like it, press the subscribe button. That's helpful too.
Yeah, definitely. But only review if you like it.
True, exactly.
Only the 5 stars
That's exactly
are
what I
helpful.
say.
Yeah.
Santa's Ink?
Well, she can...
Santa Ink.
Santa's
Santa's
one
ink.
Just one
I
Santa.
think it was like a little ink
Yeah,
well that he...
tell us about Santa Ink,
Oh,
your
Santa
book,
Ink is-
all the things. Just lay it all out there.
No, Santa Ink is an anime. It's a claymation like those old Christmas specials or those like Davy and Goliath things, remember? And it's done like that. It's incredible. Like
It's beautiful.
watching it, going to the place where they make it was incredible. But anyway, it's claymation and it's a series about the business of Christmas at the North Pole and Santa and who becomes the successor of Santa and elves, you know, so I'm Candy Smalls. I'm like the head elf, and elves are Jews in, you know, in this story which makes sense and is true in many ways. They're other, you know, they're them, they're available to work Christmas. You can't really have Christmas without them. So there's a lot that joins elves and Jews.
Thank you, Sarah Silverman. This was awesome. So great to talk to you.
I am a fan and you have brought me back into the Jeopardy fold. I
Thanks.
love you. I like Ken Jennings too. I love you on Jeopardy. You're a revelation.
Thank you. I appreciate
Really.
that. Thank you. So good to talk to you. Shabbat shalom. You can't believe she's 50.
I was shocked. I thought she was joking.
She's not.
I mean,
She looks really good. No, she's really cool. She does. She has a very different cadence than we do, and then we speak at. She's very thoughtful.
she's very
She
thoughtful.
said she needle points together. You know.
But she also seems very, very present. Like she's watching
Oh,
you.
yeah.
She's like looking for your reaction.
Yeah, she's very, very engaged.
She's a
She
little
reminds me a bit of myself. She does.
the presence.
No, just like her energy. Like,
energy,
she's
yeah.
kind of like tomboy, but it's not tomboy. It's just her. And like, you know, but
Different pace.
yes.
You're a little tornado. She's like a flowing wave.
What do you want me to talk about?
Moments of peace and calm.
Moments of peace and calm, Mayim realizes something. Okay, here's what happened. I was doing a writing assignment that my sponsor assigned me. And I had to write about a moment in my life that I didn't truly express who I was. And I was like, this is a dumb assignment. That's the first thing I thought, which usually means you better do this. And I won't name the person. It's not you. There's a person that
It's always me.
There's a person that I was in a relationship with, and I pushed aside like a really fundamental, huge component of myself. And it was not something, catastrophic, but it was definitely something that was always uncomfortable to not get to fully express, engage, participate in. And many, many people in my life, most people in my life would say, like, isn't this don't you want to be able to express that part of yourself?
Is it too much to tell us what the thing is?
Yeah. Because
Okay,
I think
it's a secret.
Yeah, and I think it's actually besides the point because, I wished, a part of me at the time wished I would have had the strength to say, this isn't a match. Whatever that part of me was in development, I didn't have. And having that realization allowed me to have compassion for myself. I did the best that I could.
It's an interesting part about relationships that they start off, and a lot of people, I think, experience this where they're like, oh, I'll just sort of not do this thing.
It's like the death knell of a relationship.
Because you want to make peace, right?
No, you just want, you want to be loved. You want the sex, the love, the affection. Don't leave me.
So it's like, if I just sort of alter myself just a little bit, and then it's like, well, if I just do it a little bit more, and then, well, actually,
Or I don't need to go to the movies. They don't like movies. But what if you love movies?
So there's
That
this.
was about us. No, I'm just
It was a pandemic. I like going to the movies. But it is an interesting balance, and because it happens so slowly, and it can be just these like inches that turn into much more.
Inches, they add up.
I've heard it described once that like those subtle little things that we do, it's like being kicked to death by a bunny rabbit. It doesn't hurt all at once, but it adds up. I thought that's a good expression.
It's a great expression.
Kicked to death by a bunny rabbit.
Slowly.
Just slowly deteriorates you.
Do we have an Ask Mayim Anything?
We sure do.
Ask Mayim Anything. Yeah.
Julia C. asks, do you think anxiety is hereditary, which we just talked about, or is it more often the result of trauma and prolonged adversity during one's life? Or, my favorite answer, a mixture of both.
Thank you for your question. I don't have these stats on, this kind of percentage breakdown, but anxiety is absolutely genetic, meaning there may not be one gene that we can say this is the gene for anxiety, because that's not how genes work. Genes work through a complex combination of turning on and turning off of signals and hormones and neurotransmitters and things like that. So we do know that anxiety runs in families, which could be the environment that the family is living in. However, I like to point out to people that even if you can't pinpoint depression is hereditary, anxiety, even if you can't pinpoint that, what is hereditary is that we inherit coping mechanisms. We inherit ways that we are more often than we don't. Meaning so many things. Anybody who's had children can tell you they come out a certain way. And sure, they change, they grow, but the way my kids were at 2 is pretty much what they are now, meaning they are more elaborate, refined, hilarious, thinking versions of that. But those are the kinds of things that lead to anxiety. Now, I am an anxious person. Did I create an environment where my children were surrounded by anxiety? Absolutely. So you get this kind of combination. And also there's so many different kinds of anxiety. There's internalizing anxiety, which is more like thoughts and rumination. And then there's externalizing anxiety, which is more like skin picking and nail biting and things like that. So you can get it all sorts of different ways. Trauma, typically, we don't necessarily think of like, oh, trauma leads to anxiety. But trauma leads to a variety of things, one of which can be anxiety. The short answer is absolutely hold your parents responsible for a certain amount of it, or your genetic load. And then the rest of it, put on your big girl panties and tackle everything else about your environment that you can to limit and mitigate your anxiety. And if it's to the point where it's disrupting your life, your sleep, your eating patterns, your drug or alcohol use, it's time to get help. And that helps change the environment.
Not only disrupting it, but if it's adding to your drug and alcohol use, because if it's disrupting it in a way that it's reducing.
Sorry, that was correct.
But we know what you mean.
Thank you.
If you want to ask Mayim anything, you can do so by going to the website, bialikbreakdown.com. That's BIALIK. Breakdown.com. If you haven't already checked out the Instagram at Bialik Breakdown on Insta,
we're building a mighty mental health army.
We certainly are, and we're doing a lot of giveaways.
Ooh, fun
and
things.
Extra content and behind the scenes. We are excited to share that with you. And if you haven't already subscribed, check us out on all the platforms. Press subscribe because that helps.
That's very important.
And check out Mayim's YouTube channel. Click the little bell notification.
And you can watch us do all of this. From our breakdown to the one we hope you never have. We'll see you next time.
It's Mayim Bialik's breakdown. She's gonna break it down for you. She's got a neuroscience PhD or two. One fiction, one. And now she's gonna break down. It's a breakdown. She's